Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Monday to you. I hope your weekend treated you well, and I hope that you are not feeling the way that I'm feeling, which is lousy and miserable, and I have been pretty much the whole weekend. So I apologize that I am not there with you today. You may or may not know this about me, but I hate being gone. I hate missing school. So I'm hoping that I'm doing everybody a favor by not being there, keeping the germs to myself, and I will do the best that I can to rest and get healthy so that I can be back there with you tomorrow. Since it's only the second week of school, we haven't really had an opportunity to go over my expectations for when there's a substitute, so we're going to do that really quickly right now. And it's really not asking too much. It's difficult to come in and be a substitute, so I thank you. I am so grateful for whoever picked up this job. And ladies and gentlemen, I really just need you to do whatever you can to make sure that he or she has a great day. So, first and foremost, I need you to be kind. I need you to be helpful. I need you to be patient. If things don't go the way that they were planned, it's okay. Just do your best and try hard. And if you have questions or concerns or things that you want to let me know, you're welcome to email me or send me a message on Remind, and I will try my best to respond before tomorrow. Otherwise, I hope to be back, fingers crossed, hope to be back in person with you tomorrow. So I'm going to teach the lesson from home or do the best that I can. So your job is to simply follow along and sort of do what I ask when I teach. And before we get started, I promised my boys they could make a quick cameo. So enjoy this little snippet. Okay. Hi, everybody. My little helpers wanted to say hello. So this is Eli. He's getting ready for nighters, so he's a little grumpy. Can you say hi, Eli? Can you smile for them? Can you smile for them? And this is my other helper, my big helper, Noah. And what can you say hello?
Hi.
Say, my name is Noah.
My name is Noah.
Say, have a great day, guys.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Can you tell them to have a good day?
Good day.
All right. Oh, you even got a kiss.
He catches it.
So they really want to help me teach you the lesson. So I told them that I would let them say hello to you. But now we're gonna get down to business. So say bye, Noah.
Bye.
Wait, come over here so they can see you.
Bye. Bye.
All right, so I just recorded the entire lesson. It went pretty smoothly. I thought I was going to be done in one take. Turns out the volume wasn't working on my microphone. So this is take 2. Here we go. It is Monday, September 19th. I hope you did your bell ringer. You should have picked up a new pink sheet, and you will have this bell ringer sheet for the next 2 weeks. So make sure your name is on it. Make sure it is filed appropriately in your math section and filled out completely. Here is sort of the agenda for today. Not sort of. This is the agenda for today. You are going to watch this lesson. You are going to work on your homework. And then before you leave, make sure you do the exit ticket. It's 4 questions. Substitute will pass out a note card. Put your name on it. Answer the questions. Drop it in your basket on the way out the door. What you will need out is your Unit 1 packet, and this doesn't happen very often, but today you, both classes, so pre-algebra and algebra, are actually learning the exact same lesson. So the only thing that's different is the way the notes are set up are a little bit different, and the page numbers are a little bit different, but the lesson itself is exactly the same. So bear with me because I'll have to sort of explain some of those logistics to both classes, but we are going to get started. So algebra, you are going to start on page 1 in your Unit 1 packet. In pre-algebra, you can start on page 6 where it says Notes, the real number system. So this lesson sort of sets us up for the entire year. We are going to be operating with and learning about numbers that are all a part of the real number system. In later years of math, you're going to learn about something called imaginary numbers, and those are numbers that are crazy and they are not a part of the real number system. But for this year in 7th grade and probably until you get to high school, really all of the mathematics that you do, all of the numbers that you deal with are a part of this thing called the real number system. And it's really just a way to classify and organize numbers. So what better way to explain organization than to talk about my closet? And I would love to show you a picture of my closet, but it is not as organized as it should be right now. So instead, I'm just going to explain it to you. Side note, I'm watching the Vikings and Packers game. The Vikings are winning 10-7. Whoop whoop. But my husband is a Packers fan, and he is upstairs also watching the game. So if at any point you hear loud cheering or yelling or screaming, just know that it's because of the big football game going on. Okay, so back to my closet. If I am talking about a specific item of clothing, and maybe I'm trying to explain it to somebody else or ask for somebody to look for it in my closet, there are some ways that I could describe this item of clothing that I'm looking for. I could say something really broad or generic or general, like, hey, I'm looking for one of the tops that's in my closet. And that makes sense to sort of divide your closet into 2 sections, the tops and the bottoms, which I have one location where all my tops are, one location where all my bottoms are. But that's not very helpful when it comes to finding one specific item, so I need to be a little bit more specific. So if I'm thinking about just finding a top, maybe I'm looking for something that's specifically long sleeved. There's short sleeve, there's long sleeves, but I want to find something that's specifically long sleeve. So I have to be a little bit more specific when I'm using that to describe the item of clothing. But if I sent somebody like my husband into my closet and just said, hey, can you grab me that one long sleeve shirt? He's not going to know what to get. So I need to be even more specific than that. So maybe it's a sweatshirt that I'm looking for. Okay, that seems easy enough, but there's actually quite a few different kinds of sweatshirts in my closet. Maybe there's a zip-up sweatshirt or a sweatshirt that doesn't have a hood. Well, I'm looking for specifically a hooded sweatshirt. So in my closet, there is a section for all of my hooded sweatshirts. And sure, my hooded sweatshirts are still considered sweatshirts, so they're in that larger circle of sweatshirts. They're also considered long sleeved, so they'd be included in the long sleeve category. And they're also a kind of top. And so even though there's lots of different ways that I can classify this specific hooded sweatshirt, the more specific, the better when I'm trying to find or when I'm sending somebody to find this shirt. So even more specific than that, I am looking for this black Woodbury Middle School hooded sweatshirt. So the more specific that I can get, the more description, the better that I can classify this item of clothing, the better off I'll be if I'm needing somebody to get it for me. So again, please understand that black WMS sweatshirt is the most specific way that I'm organizing this shirt or classifying this shirt. However, it's still considered to be a hooded shirt. It's still a sweatshirt. It has long sleeves, and it's still considered a top. So I could give that specific black Woodbury Middle School sweatshirt all of those different classifications. Same goes with bottoms. I can be really broad or generic or general and say, I'm just looking for some bottoms, or I could be more specific and say, nope, I'm looking for somebody to find jeans, and more specifically, shorts that are jeans. So your closet is a way that you organize all of the items of clothes that you own. And the more specific, the better. Similarly, we have a giant closet, as you could call it, for all of the numbers that we deal with. And this closet is called the real number system. It's kind of that big umbrella that all of these numbers fit into or fall under. There's two main categories when it comes to the real number system. One of those categories is rational and the other is irrational. And we're going to start by talking about the rational numbers. So just like in my closet, I categorized tops and bottoms. Those were kind of my two main categories. And then from there, I got more specific. That's how we're going to talk about numbers as well. I'm going to start actually in the most specific circle of rational numbers, and those are called natural numbers. And you have been working in the realm of natural numbers for most of your life, even since you were a toddler. When we first learn about numbers, usually it's by counting, and the numbers that you learn how to count, starting with 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth, those are considered natural numbers, and it's the smallest category of numbers that contains the fewest amount of numbers. From there, we figured out that we actually need a larger category because we need to include the number 0. When you first learn how to count, usually you don't start out with 0. And so we have this whole other category that includes 0, and it's called whole numbers. So 0 and then all of those natural counting numbers make up the category called whole numbers. The only thing that's different about whole numbers and natural numbers is that number is 0. That's the only addition to the category of whole numbers. Going a little bit more general or a little bit larger in the scheme of things, there are numbers called integers. And integers include all of the natural numbers, all of the whole numbers, and then also their opposites. So now we have negative numbers. Negative numbers are going to come into play a lot in 7th grade math. And so we consider these to be called integers. And like I said, that category includes all of the whole numbers and all of the natural numbers as well. And then the last group, the largest group, is called rational numbers. And rational numbers include fractions, mixed numbers, decimals, specifically decimals that repeat or terminate, which means they end. And then all of those integers, all of the whole numbers, and all of the natural numbers make up this category called rational numbers. Most of the numbers that you will deal with on a regular basis are considered rational numbers. So we do a lot with fractions, we do a lot with decimals, negative numbers, and all of those can be classified or labeled as rational numbers. The only numbers that are not included in that category of rational are called irrational numbers. And I call these messy numbers, or numbers that are sort of a hot mess. My toddler, Noah, was acting a bit irrational earlier today. He did not want to get out of the bathtub, and he threw a fit and splashed all over. And maybe some of you have been called irrational by your parents or by somebody else, but he was just kind of a hot mess, and it was because he was overly tired. But in the world of numbers, we call messy numbers irrational, and these are numbers like pi. Most of you know that pi is a very, very long number, decimal, that goes on, no real patterns, no real repeats, and there's not really a way to tell what number comes next in that long list of numbers. So we call pi an irrational number. It's probably the most important or most well-known irrational number. There's other numbers that are non-perfect square roots. For example, the square root of 2, the square root of 7. Those numbers are irrational because there's no real pattern and they don't end. So again, terminating decimals are decimals that stop or they have a definite end point, and those are rational. Decimals that do not end or that are messy or that don't have a pattern, those are irrational. And there's a big difference between the two. If you need to pause and ask a question or write something down, just raise your hand. Go ahead and do that now. If you are in algebra, your notes look a little bit different. They look like this. So if you want to take a moment to fill those in, go ahead, you can. The difference between pre-algebra and algebra is in algebra we start using the specific way of abbreviating numbers in the real number system. So the letter R is what we use to talk about real numbers, which are all the numbers that we're going to deal with this year. And then from there we split it into either irrational, which we use I, or rational, which we use Q. It seems weird to use the letter Q, but we can't use R again, so we just use this letter to represent rational numbers, which are those fractions and decimals. Integers, this is not a 7, this is actually the letter Z. That's the letter that you use to abbreviate integers. Oh boy, Adrian Peterson just got hurt. I wasn't paying attention, so I don't know what happened. But it looks like he's fine. Okay, moving on. Whole numbers, 0, and then those counting numbers, we use the letter W. And the natural numbers do not include 0. Those are just the numbers that we count on our fingers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and onward and upward. All right, you're going to pause the video after this in just a moment, and both pre-algebra and algebra have a few practice problems. So if you are in algebra, and I want you to practice this together, so either as a whole group or a whole class, or maybe you want to partner up with the person sitting next to you. But on the bottom of page 1, Algebra Peeps, you are going to do numbers 1 through 9. So on the bottom there it says, name all sets of numbers to which each number belongs. So for example, number 1 is the number 30. And what you are going to do is just list off the sets to which that number belongs. So I always start in the most specific. So I think about, okay, is 30 a natural number? And the answer is yes, because that's a counting number. If I kept on counting past 10, I would eventually get to 30. So yes, 30 is a natural number, which means it's also considered a whole number. It's also considered an integer, and it's also considered a rational number. So I would put all of those, list them all down, and then move on to number 2. So you can go ahead, pause, do numbers 1 through 9. If you have questions, raise your hand. And then you can actually move on to page 2, where you have to do some organizing and answering of some multiple choice questions. So work with a partner, work as a whole group, and then when you finish page 2, go ahead and get started on your homework, which is on page 3. Pre-algebra people, on the bottom of page 6, there are 2 parts that I want you to practice together. The first part is on the left-hand side where it says, place the letter of each value in its location in the real number system above. So letters A through J, there are some tricky ones. So for example, letter A is the number 7. And again, I would start in the most specific. Is 7 a natural number? And it is. So I would place the letter A in the circle that says natural, knowing that that then also means that 7 is a whole number and an integer, and it's also rational, because that small circle is also a part of those larger circles. Letter B is a little bit trickier because it says negative 36 over 12. We actually need to simplify that first before we can classify it. So negative 36 over 12, or divided by 12, can be simplified to negative 3. So we're going to classify negative 3. And I'll start again in the most specific. Is negative 3 a natural number? Woo! Vikings score 16-7. Whoop, whoop. Negative 3, is it a natural number? And the answer is no, it is not a natural number, because you do not start counting when you're 2 years old. You don't know about negative numbers. So it does not belong in the natural category. Oh, sorry, they're carrying AP off. He's limping. It doesn't look good. Is negative 3 a whole number? It is not, because whole numbers only are natural numbers plus 0. So then I go even larger into the integer circle. Is negative 3 an integer? And it is indeed an integer. So I would place the letter B in the circle that says integer. And integers are also considered rational numbers, so negative 3 is an integer and it's also rational. Hopefully, Mr. Johnson, you are there and you can help, because some of these are tricky, like letter C is tricky, letter G is tricky, letter K is super tricky. So go ahead and work together on those. Ask questions if you're not sure. And then when you're finished, you can move on to numbers 1 through 8 on the right-hand side. Again, it makes you think a little bit. So feel free to use each other and help each other out going through those questions. When you finish those together problems, you can work independently on page 11 or homework 1-1. That is what's due at the beginning of the hour tomorrow. Now is a great time to ask questions for the good of the group. If you need to rewind or go back and listen to something over again, you can. Otherwise, you can get to work. And when you are working independently, we haven't had an opportunity to sort of go over these expectations, so here they are. I am totally fine with music as long as you have your own headphones and it's not distracting to other people. If you do have your cell phone or an iPad or whatever, please make sure it's out on your desk face down, so that any of the teachers walking around sort of know what it is you're using your phone for. Working together with the person sitting next to you, is totally fine. I don't want you up wandering around or moving around to sit by your friends, but the person sitting next to you can be a resource and you guys can work together. Your volume should be at a reasonable level. Lots of you on your ideal math class said that you preferred when it is quiet, and so that is what I expect it to be during independent work time. This assignment is due tomorrow, and as always, remember, please, to be kind, be helpful, and just try your best. We will answer any questions that you have tomorrow at the beginning of class. When you leave, this is the exit ticket, so I'm just reminding you to go back to that and answer those questions on a note card, and leave it in the basket on the way out the door with your name, please and thank you. You can pause the video right now, and when you come back, the exit ticket will be up. You should probably take the last 5 to 7 minutes or so of class to work through that. Have a great, great, great day. Sorry again that I'm gone, and I will see you hopefully tomorrow.